Is there a law that says you can't eat in that room? I like it. Okay. Well, I mentioned the first day that what I'm doing this week is experimental. So you guys are my favorite rats. I love it.
You're my favorite.
Practice off. So, it's an honor. And then if I ring the bell, then the rats all come and sit down. And so good. Okay, now, so what's the big deal about knowing what your life message is? Well, you gotta know what it is before you can change it, right? And they're changeable. Because more than likely, the life message, the predominant life message that you got, had some truth in it. Okay? Wasn't all true, but it might have had some truth in it. So what you have to do as an adult, you have to sit down and look at it, and you might even want to write it down. It's really important to write stuff down. You don't have to be quite as technical as Joshua. I just happened to catch a glimpse of his notebook. It's in perfect order, highlighted in greens and blues and stuff. Good job, Joshua. Yeah. But, because then what you can do, you don't have to live that message out. That's changeable. And probably it was mostly not true. So then you have to say, well, what is true? And then we're going to be talking about that. So that's what we're getting into. Yes. Hey, tell me your name.
Daniel.
Daniel.
Yeah.
Have you been here before?
No, I had 2 days off. I'm one of the staff. So.
Oh, you're on staff.
Yeah.
Okay, good, Daniel. Okay.
No question. I think often when I do something wrong, I tell myself I'm a disappointment in God's eyes. Because I'm not living on His standards, or up to His standards, and yeah, I feel like in some way there's a reason why I feel bad for it, because I'm doing something wrong, and then at the same time I'm condemning myself and speaking lies into my life. Yeah, but I when you said that, I immediately knew, okay, that's what I'm telling myself oftentimes when I do something wrong.
Yeah, that's a good point, Daniel. We often go even, I don't know how to say, we often go beyond beating ourselves up than what is necessary. So we know the life message, but then we end up piling more stuff on, right, and condemning ourselves, and and then it's a downward spiral, right? You just keep going, it gets worse, the worse you feel, the more you tell yourself you're bad, the worse you feel, and then it just goes, So, knowing what the message is, being able to articulate it, write it down, say, what can I do to change this, that helps at least manage it. And the other thing, remember I said, you need to celebrate your failures. Failing is good if it's responded to properly. Now, if you fail and then beat yourself up, it's not good. But if you fail and go, hey, I blew it. Okay, fair enough. What did I do wrong? What did I do better? And then move on. So that's called growing, by the way. So again, accept yourself for best you can for who you are, whatever the impediments might be. You're going to have to, again, the one thing you have to factor in is God's grace is sufficient for whatever it is. When we were in the Middle East, we had a girl on our staff who had gotten polio when she was young. And so, let's all turn and look at Jonathan. He needs a little attention.
Hi, Jonathan.
So guys, good job, Jonathan. So Nadra had polio when she was a kid, so one leg was deformed. So she walked with a horrible limp. And I don't know how many times she would come to me and say, pray for me, pray for my healing. And I did, kind of half-heartedly. I mean, I did pray, but I was thinking, it's probably not going to work. But finally, I said to Nadra, Nadra, listen, here's the deal. You're gonna have to learn how to deal with your handicap. You're gonna have to assume it's not gonna change, not gonna get any better. So what are you gonna do? You can feel sorry for yourself. You can make excuses because you've got this impediment. You can do all that, but that's not gonna help. That's not gonna get you further down the road. The reality is, you've got a leg that is not working well. Probably gonna have to live with it the rest of your life. So the sooner you can get on with living your life as best you can, including, and of course, and while I'm saying that, I'm thinking, I'm not sure I could do that, quite honestly. But I give advice pretty and freely. And so she seemed to take it well and did better. But then lo and behold, she was in the States doing something. And some doctor heard about her situation, and he happened to be one of the world's best doctors in reconfiguring limbs. And I think she had a series of operations. And the last I heard, her leg wasn't perfect, but it was exceedingly better than it had been. And so she could have used those 10 years to just wallow in her self-pity and not grow and not become any a better person. Or what she did as best she could is accepted it and moved on as best she could. And she was right, and from what I understand, she's in a much, much better place now because her leg's a lot better. So, I don't know that you have impediments like that, except Eli right now for the short term. You're going to be back with us pretty soon, I think, Eli. And so, do the best you can. That's all I can say. Don't whine. You know what the word whine means, right? Whining. Saying something like, "Oh, poor me. Everything's so terrible. Everything bad happens to me. Blah blah blah." Whining. And I learned here in New Zealand that this is what we call a no-whine zone. The Kiwis are really tough. Because usually when I come down here, and I've been down here probably, over the years, maybe 12, 13 times, and I've got a lot of Kiwi friends, the buddies of mine that I knew in YWAM, either in the Middle East or in Colorado. So I've got a lot of local friends here. And so I would speak at the school, and then we'd jump in the car and we would drive as far south as you could go on the South Island, on the west side, down to a little town called Haast. And then we would jump in a helicopter, and it would take us 70 miles into the Pike River, and the guy would say, "See you in 2 weeks." And so we would float the Pike River, and we would hunt red stag for 2 weeks. And supper was, whatever we shot or caught that day was supper. That's so funny. One time, we just arrived in camp, we just set up camp, walked up, and I shot a red stag, not maybe 50 meters from the camp. So we went over, and took out the back straps, had a great meal. And then we didn't get any red stag for like 3 days. There was nothing. And so Pete, my local buddy, he said, that deer you shot when we first got here 3 days ago? He said, "I think there might be some good meat still left on that one." I said, "Pete, it's been laying out in the sun for 3 days. And he goes, "Oh, there should be some good meat." So he goes out, and kind of picks through and finds some meat. So that was supper. But what I learned from all this is in the Kiwi land, there's no whining. So here's the rule when you're in hunting camp. If you hurt yourself, you can come back to camp and you can tell the story once. And everybody goes, No, the guy's grunt a lot. Grunt of a person. But if you start talking about it again, then you're whining. Okay? So Pete comes back into camp one day, and his eye's all bloody, and he can't hardly see out of it. And we say, "Pete, what happened?" Stick in the eye. You got a stick in your eye. Yeah. That's it, can't talk anymore, you know? Fozzie, one of our other guys, he came back to camp and he had fallen and his teeth had gone through his bottom lip. And say, what happened, Foz? Fell. I think Cassidy, I fell down once coming down this really steep part, and I caught a branch and went head first into some rocks and came up, and my head was all bleeding on this side. And my buddy, my so-called friend, was not far behind me. And I've been downhill with my pack on, with my head in the rocks, and I finally managed to push up and sit. And I thought he was going to be there to help me. And I turned around, he had his camera out.
Wow.
Yeah, so, that's how it came. What happened? Fell. So, this is no whining, okay? No whine zone. So it doesn't really good to whine and complain. Just do the best you can with what you've got, and we'll work our way through this. So, we're gonna do a real quick little thing that is with regards to temperaments. And so we're gonna do the temperament test. You've probably done this a million times. But this, you're gonna take a test which is gonna determine what temperament you're. Now, the temperament is your genetic predisposition towards something. So everybody part of your being is that you're temperament. What's your temperament? That's not your character so much, but what is your personality that you were born with? And oh, by the way, you can see this from little babies on. I mean, our kids, we've got 3 kids, and you can see when they were just little kitty kids. One of them, our oldest daughter, is high energy, independent, strong-willed, and ever since she was just a little baby, man, she just, she wanted to be on her own terms, and now she's exactly that as an adult, So this is important, but what you were born with physically, will help determine what you are going to be best at and enjoy doing. So I want you to take just we're not going to take a long time, but just as quickly as you can, I want you to write down, what are your 5 best attributes about yourself? It can be mental, emotional, physically, just not spiritually right now. Anything but spiritual. What are your 5 best attributes about yourself? I'll give you a minute.
1 minute?
This is tough.
My gosh, I'm thinking most of you would have like 25 written down already. Okay, 10 more seconds. You can add to these later on too. This is just to get you going. Okay, switch over now and write down the 5 worst attributes that you consider are yours. Now, most of you probably can't think of anything now. So the 5 worst attributes, in your opinion, as you look at yourself. What are your weaknesses? Some of you may need a couple more pages of Okay, 10 seconds.
Oh.
Okay, good, good. Like I say, you can add to them more later if you want to. Now, character. Character. We talk a lot about character. Character is what you do with what you have. Okay? So you've been given this bomb of potential, okay, this latent potential, it's there. In different forms, different shapes, right? Different abilities, different gifts, whatever. But you, the individual you, have got this potential. What are you gonna do with it? How, it's like, who are you today? Who are you gonna be in a week, in a month, in a year, 5 years, 10 years? That potential is there. You determine what it looks like. It's up to you. Now, some of you think you had it tough. Jonathan, you want to come if we can play this clip?